my name is Randy Von Bosse, and this is Kaysville Condensed. I attended the January 18th City Council meeting, and this is my report. The beginning of the meeting began with a few presentations, and one of these was that of the US 89 Environmental Study Committee. They came to report some of their findings and some of the changes that they have undergone as they have looked at the environmental impacts. I wanted to mention that there were a few members of the community and surrounding communities that came to make comment during the public comment period, and they did wait through the whole meeting in order to make those comments. Many of these individuals are members of a group that they call themselves the Renew 89. They do have a website. It is revu89.org. Their concern is that these environmental studies are done on a state level, and they are only looking at the impacts of US 89 and not on the three major highways that will now be converging into this compact area of Kaysville and Farmington and Fruit Heights here, where 89 and I-15 and the West Davis corridor will all converge. As I spoke to them after the meeting, they were expressing a desire to have community members provide feedback to the UDOT, saying that we would like to have a federal study done. If a federal study was done, it would take into account all three highways and really look at the impacts of having three major systems converge into one. All of the feedback is due in by February 3rd. So if you have a concern about this and would like to express an opinion to UDOT on things that might impact the environment, I would encourage you to send that feedback in by February 3rd. Moving on, we did have also a report by our Parks and Rec Director, Cole Stevens. There were many things he talked about. Just to clarify, I want to point out that our Parks and Rec Department is not over just our parks and recreation programs, but they also oversee the cemetery and also all of our city facilities, meaning in any of our city buildings or police stations, they also are in charge of maintenance of AC or asphalt or any building issues that come up. So when you look at their budget, also take into account that they are managing both the cemetery and the facilities for the city. Cole did point out that we have a large number of volunteer hours that go into our city and kind of funnel through our Parks and Rec Department. He mentioned that we have over 30,000 volunteer hours for recreation programs. We have about 8,500 volunteer hours for community events, and then another over 5,000 hours that come in from Eagle Scout projects. And all of this together, if you were to put a dollar value on it, come to about $1 million in volunteer time that is being contributed to our city. That is wonderful. I just wanted to put in a plug. I got an email today that planning for our 4th of July festivities are going to begin. There will be a planning meeting on February 7th, and if this is something that you would like to volunteer for, you can reach out to Cole Stevens and he can get you more information on where there might be opportunities to volunteer here in the city. As the meeting went on, we had a few just consent items. One of them got pulled out for new water mains that need to be replaced here in the city. This is a large project that takes a large amount of budget. So there was concern over it, but in the end it was approved to accept a bid for construction that will begin in the spring. This is the area that will be affected, and I just wanted to let you know that you should receive notification from the city before these projects begin in the spring. As we moved on into the action items, one of the items that came forward was the annexation of a property to the east of Highway 89. This land has previously been unincorporated and is now seeking to have development on it. There are a couple concerns with incorporating this land into the city of Kaysville. The first of which is that the existing homes, there are 6 homes on this property, they currently have Rocky Mountain power lines running to them. In order to annex this land into the city of Kaysville, we would need to have those power lines become part of Kaysville City Power. The city contacted Rocky Mountain Power to get a quote on how much it would cost to purchase those lines for the city, and we were given a quote of about $6,000 per home. That gives us a lot of perspective on how much our existing infrastructure is here in the city of Kaysville for our power company. Another concern was that of secondary water. Currently, Kaysville City requires its residents to have secondary water for watering lawns and gardening and uses of that nature. These homes do not have secondary water and would have to have lines run up to the hill to have secondary water. Additionally, there would not be enough pressure to get secondary water all the way up to the top of the property. So there would still be about 15 to 20 homes that would not be able to use secondary water. This creates a problem for the city because by state regulation, if homes are using culinary water to water lawns or do anything of that nature, the city would have to inspect those lines regularly to make sure that there is no backflow occurring into our regular lines. So that would be an added cost to the city. Additionally, there is a water tank on this property that would need to be relocated. This would provide an opportunity to get a larger tank that we would need for added capacity for the city, but there would be cost associated with this as well. The developer commented and said that they are willing to help with many of these costs, but the development agreement is not fully in place at this point. So the council did move to table the item until hopefully the next meeting when they can come back and discuss this annexation further. As the meeting went on, there was also an item of eminent domain brought up. This is not something you see very often in the city, but as I talked to many of those involved in the process, it seemed to be almost a common feeling that this is a step in the right direction for finding resolution. This issue does date back quite a while, as Snowhorse Elementary on the west side of Kaysville was built and needed to have safe walking routes for children to get to school. The Parents Committee approached the city many years ago to request that a second set of sidewalks be put in on the east side of Angel Street. The concern at the time was the cost and if it would even be possible with the creek running there to mitigate the impacts of this. The city began contacting the Army Corps of Engineers, who comes out and assesses if there is possible mitigation that could occur for basically paving over a creek and where that would need to be rerouted to. While the Army Corps of Engineers was looking into that, we also had an issue come before the city in regards to our flood drainage system. We have a couple ponds out on the west side of Kaysville that take a lot of our storm runoff, but we're also having issues with getting filled with silt or having flooding occur in these ponds and affecting the neighbors. One of the ponds takes direct runoff from this creek that was already being looked at for the sidewalk issue and for widening of Angel Street because it is becoming a more congested road. As the Army Corps of Engineers came back and said that there would be possible mitigation, the city then began looking at the realities of if we could widen Angel Street, add the sidewalk, and also alleviate some of that storm drainage that was occurring. The city did vote to move forward with this, and a bid was approved last March to begin construction on what they call the Angel Street Irrigation Project. However, before proper bonding could occur and permissions could be put in place, the construction company began work on that creek project, which caused a myriad of other issues that have been in negotiations basically for the last many months. After all of these negotiations, it's basically been decided that the city and the neighbors are not able to come to an agreement. And so this eminent domain is a process where it takes it out of the hands of the city and gives it to a judge and a jury who will assess what the proper settlement should be. The positives of this are that if a judge deems that this was a project needed for public use, then he can grant permission for the city to begin work on that irrigation project immediately. So that could occur within 2 to 3 weeks if we do file that suit for eminent domain. So that will be something that will move forward, but it is also interesting to note that we no longer have control of what that settlement will be. Whatever the judge or jury decides, if we bring it to suit, that is what the city will pay out. The last thing I wanted to mention was that fiber and automatic readers were once again on the agenda. There was some great conversation about the fiber that the city has had since 2005 without any need for maintenance, and the need right now for more fiber to connect our substations and to get automatic readers in place. The council had a good discussion and moved to bring both the vote for installing fiber and automatic readers to the agenda for next week. That is everything for this week. Thank you for watching.